This is an exciting experience. I'm going to be talking a lot and kind of, okay, here I am, I'm live. And I'm going to be over-explaining things because this has many audiences. This has the current live audience on YouTube. This has people who are later going to watch this on YouTube. This is an exciting experience.
Going to hear the audio.
I'm going to be talking a
when
lot.
It comes out as just a podcast.
Okay, here I am. I'm live.
So,
and I'm going to be over-explaining
here I am,
things because this has
and
many audiences.
I'm
this
wearing
has
this
the
great shirt
current
that my
live
friend
audience
Brandon
on
let me
YouTube.
borrow. It says
This has
the
people who are
Japanese
later going to watch
word
this on
for what.
YouTube. This is an
So,
exciting
we're just
experience.
going to hear
I
the
can't
audio.
see anything right
Talking a
now.
lot.
I
Comes out
can't see
as
any
just a
comments.
podcast.
But here I am. I'm live.
We're gonna go into
this
this
blind.
blind.
I'm going to be
And
over-explaining
here I
things
am. I'm really
because
excited
this has
to share.
many audiences.
I'm
This
wearing
has
this
the
great shirt
current
that my
live
friend
audience
Brandon
on
let me
YouTube.
borrow.
This has
The
people who are
Japanese
later going to watch
word
this on
for what.
YouTube. This is an
So,
exciting
we're just
experience.
going to hear
I
the
can't
audio.
see anything right
Talking a
now.
lot.
I
Comes out
can't see
as
any
just a
comments.
podcast.
But here I am. I'm
We're
live.
gonna go into this blind.
Here I am. Many audiences. Great current live audience on YouTube. People who are later going to watch this on YouTube. So I can't see anything right now. I can't see any comments. Okay. Wow. What a mess. Well, I really appreciate Snack Tack, Jeremy Dirtball. Okay, we're good now? That's good. Well, the problem is I can't play the music, and this was supposed to be an album film, so I'm going to have to be very, very, I don't know, coffee shop open mic and like poetry slam kind of thing. Now I'm hearing audio echo loops as well, so that's not ideal. Maybe I have... There we go. Okay. Now I have everything in line except for the fact that I can't play music. I'm really glad that it's pretty much only a couple of my friends here right now because this is not going in a very professional way. But thank you especially Snack Tack. This is pretty cool to have homies in the chat. I just really want to be able to play some music. I think it's bunk if I don't play any music. But maybe I'll just have to rap without it. Okay. Starting the podcast. This podcast was recorded on May 18th, 2020. Hello, ladies and gentlemen and people outside the binary. This is Less Stupid with Thomas Hiura, a show that's completely uncut, uncensored, and a little bit unapologetic, let's say, about the fact that this didn't go all that smoothly. Actually, that's not at all true because I am apologetic. I don't like to put people through bad technology. So let me just start out with some bars because I can't play a beat because I tried to do that, but I'm just going to spit some bars for this project. If you ain't think I was really doing this, then you don't know me at all. 20 plus years in my hometown and I won't let the town fall. Pull up a seat, all of Eugene, if you don't know me at all. Came back from New York and the homies there were like, enjoy Seattle. Too many people that's running, they not even from here. Still the same MB I was when they said I was some queer. He's all over the place, so we've never elected a kid before. Does Thomas even have policies? I only have 64. Damn, I got a plan. It's not for power to put in my hand. I'm trying to give it all back to the little people in Eugene, because together we're grand. No, I don't be playing piano, even though I am an Asian. Every track is some mathematical subtracting rap that's not amazing. I got a whole lot of skill that I can bring to the position. I'm a run a tough race, but I love my competition. See the look on their face when I rap at a meeting. Trouble urine like a cat that are bleeding. Making dinner from the track in a meeting. A rhetoric is really lacking in meaning. Small businesses and 20-somethings used to love Eugene. Now they're laughing and leaving. You're thinking that my flow isn't likely, blindsided like it's COVID-19. If you were Trump, could have known we ain't ready for a pandemic, but you couldn't focus on the right thing. Tweeting out inappropriate writings. You were warned by Department of Health, Chris Hertoff, Tony Fauci. You ignore till it's harming our wealth. Hindsight 2020, though, it's not about you. What I do for Eugene. Since the campaign started, I've been working hella hard. I fucked it up. Since the campaign started, I've been working hella hard and wrote 140 news magazines. So I ain't trying to do MAGA things. I quarantine with some food and some drinks. Dems lining up for Joe Biden like it's Clinton Part 2. Losing the blink of an eye if you nominate someone that young people don't even like. And it's so many times that he shows that he lies. Goes on the mic like, I'm Obama's homie. We know it, alright? Venice and Biden demean the young. Dear Joe, what you stand for? Patriot Act, putting troops in Iraq. If you're president, bet you demand war. And that's the kind of neoliberal, anti-change-making leadership we don't need. We don't need it in the White House. We don't need it here in our local government as well. That is a track that I would love to put out with music someday, but we're just going to roll along. Welcome to the show, everybody. I've got a couple of news stories to go over that I want to talk about out of the gate, and then in probably about 5 minutes, I'll go through and just explain my policy platform. We'll make this program last maybe, oh, nice, thank you. I'm seeing comments saying, damn, and get it. So thank you, Marvelo and Snack Tack. There are some issues that are happening in the campaign that are worth public discussion. And what little voice that I have, I'm going to go ahead and use it to talk about some of those things, because I didn't go into this expecting that the mainstream corporate media giants that are not particularly local, but that are doing work here in terms of getting the word out in Eugene, I don't want to totally dismiss them. You couldn't hear, but I was doing ad-libs, so Snack Tack, thank you. I don't want to totally dismiss regular mainstream media. My very best friend works there with KVAL, and I've had a great deal of appreciation for KVAL growing up in North Eugene. They cover Oh, my phone camera's gone. That's good. They cover a lot of issues that were off the beaten path and were willing to get up River Road a little bit and come talk to us. So that was something that I always really appreciated. But they weren't very receptive to the following story. So I am going to go ahead and pull it up. It's a press release that I wrote and I sent to KVAL, KMTR, KZI, our Register Guard, Eugene Weekly, KLCC, and I should have sent it to the Emerald, but at this point in the election, I don't think they were going to cover it. It's about a First Amendment violation, and the only reason that I'm going to bring this up a little further, because I did address it on a previous Less Stupid podcast episode, is because there are developments in the story. So, Mayor Lucy Venus campaign contests claim of First Amendment violation. The headline of the press release that I wrote. And on Sunday, May 10th, the campaign committee to re-elect Eugene Mayor Lucy Venus received an email from fellow mayoral candidate Thomas Hiura. Hiura expressed concern that the Venus campaign's operations were in violation of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And really all I got to keep saying about this is that it's actually not legal to block people from commenting on your Facebook page if you are an elected official. It's something that Donald Trump is not allowed to do. He can't even do it on his real Donald Trump Twitter, which of course started before he was president, because it's an abridgment of what's called a limited public forum. The U.S. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals determined this on January 7th of 2019. And the Venus campaign, I finally reached out to them. I had put this story out into the universe with that Less Stupid video in early April, and I had talked about it with a few other people, but it became something I wanted to talk to them about because I'm kind of a lover, not a fighter. I don't want to go in and ask, I don't necessarily want to pursue legal options, and I don't think I could really afford to as well, but I wanted them to stop doing something that the U.S. Constitution doesn't allow them to do. So I emailed them, and the response I got was basically, this is legal because it's actually a private page. I'll quote directly. The page you're referring to, Re-elect Mayor Lucy Venus, is a private page owned and managed by Lucy's campaign committee. It is not owned or managed by the mayor herself, nor is it an official government page. Since it is a private page, we have no legal obligation to allow negative, self-promoting, or hostile comments on the page. We have made this clear in our page posting policy rules, which can be found on the Facebook page. And that is their argument. They're saying, it's not a government page. What are you talking about? Well, the reality is that if you are a public official, and that is the page that was representing her before it was changed to Re-elect Mayor Lucy Venus, it was literally just called Mayor Lucy Venus. It's very much her page. It's very much something that she is accountable to in terms of acting within the law, like we all should when we're running a campaign. So it's certainly an issue for her to say, oh, it's a private page, we can do whatever we want. No, you are when you put your hand on the when you were sworn into office in January of 2016, you were sworn in to defend of 2017. You were sworn in to defend the U.S. Constitution. So we're all subject to that. And the reason it gets especially hairy now is because people probably from that campaign, but we don't know who, have been reporting posts that are completely tolerable and acceptable, not just on that page itself, on Facebook, but people making personal posts on their own pages highlighting their own campaign platforms. So that's the second little story I want to talk about. Facebook has seemed to be complicit in acts where people are pretending that there are terms of service violations in a post where literally 5 candidates that I'm running kind of alongside or against are just posting their own campaign website. So it's solidarityplatformeugene.org, and they literally are just posting their site which shows their platforms. And that is considered, literally, if you were to try to go on Facebook now and post that URL, solidarityplatformeugene.org, which, by the way, I'm not even a part of them. I just want everyone to be treated fairly, right? It's it doesn't let you post it. And I thought that was so bogus, and there's no way. Maybe they're overblowing this. There's a misunderstanding. No, literally you can't post that. So, I mean, it's really not politically smart for me to say, hey, go and type in this site, but I don't, my foremost freaking obligation is to fairness and a better electoral process in Eugene. And if it's true that Lucy Vinnis' campaign is involved in this, in flagging so many posts, that the literal campaign website of an opposing candidate, Snack Tack says, they might have you on that, technically, TBH. It's kind of like a super PAC where it's obviously hers, but there's one degree of separation. But fighting it could be a good campaign move. Well, we will see about that, certainly, but it's a bummer that Emily Mooney came back with an email, and she's the campaign manager for Vinnis, and she said, we're going to consult with our lawyer about this on Thursday or Friday. That's the earliest that we can get her in, because I did specifically say that, a private page that represents a public official is not exempt from the court's ruling. Hey, Brooklyn Wetzel's here. Right on. Protect our digital spaces. Absolutely. So I'm glad people are participating and recognizing that this is not okay. Everybody has the right to campaign with basic infrastructure that the internet gives them. It's not enough for somebody to have 6 figures more dollars and be able to run ads all over the internet and in publications, etc. It's not enough to have your campaign be the only one that gets to do a Chamber of Commerce forum and take advantage of other platforms that really get the word out. How is it that you can then, and my voice cracks on this because I get passionate, make such an unjust limitation on other people's right to campaign? So I'm not a fan of that. And that's about all I want to say with that. The ballots need to be turned in tomorrow. So there are about 25%, probably a little higher, like maybe 30% now, as I'm recording this, just after 6 p.m. on May 18th. And that's sad that only that many people have turned in their stuff. But hopefully there's just a lot of people who, actually it tends to skew younger people who hang on to their ballots longer and turn in at the last minute, are my generation. So let's go, millennials, what's up? And hopefully we also get some Zoomers there who are 18, right? That's not quite millennial anymore. Generations are speeding up so quickly. So that is happening, and please do turn in those ballots. I think I would normally want to do another rap, but it's going to be so corny without. I'll just do a little bit of bop, and then I'll get back to Brooklyn Wetzel's comment. So if you've heard Bop by DaBaby, this is my flip on that. Yo. Ha! Eugene needs a mayor who's confident, someone who is confident, communicative, and has like a major accomplishment. 24 years of Tory and Piercy and Vinnis, and I'm a beginner, speak on the shit. You think that Eugene would be thriving, but I'd say the climate that I'm in is not the shit. I ain't a doctor, a Japanese rapper. Imagine how mad that my mama is. She told me, psycho, you can't be the mayor, but I don't do shit just so my mom ain't pissed. That's all you get. Back to Brooklyn Wetzel's comments. You still got your ballot. Honestly, I stumbled over talking about that because I still have my ballot too. But Matthew, you posted that it helps people who are doing campaign work, get out the vote work, still get paid because they can, they have more work to do. They have a lot of people who they need to alert that the ballots are not in, and that there's still a chance to make your voice heard in this local election. So I don't have much else besides going straight into the crux of the show. So here we go. We have 40 minutes left, but I will probably knock this out much quicker than 40 minutes. And maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain my 64 policies. And I wanted to do this in a way that's not boring, but like the conventional wisdom in politics is people don't pay attention to policy. They pay attention to personality and marketing and, savvy talking points. But people don't like to get into the weeds. But I want to do some of these in terms of freestyle as well, freestyle hip-hop. But there are some topics that are a little more appropriate to do that with, and some that are a little less appropriate. So I will definitely freestyle through my art policy plan, but I am just going to go straight into the first policy plan, which has to do with education. Education is something I have a strong background in because I was a teacher. I worked as a college guidance counselor very successfully for the Leadership Enterprise for a Diverse America program at Princeton, and I am very frustrated when I think of this issue because the mayor essentially believes that it's not her job and it's not the city's job to fix the issues that are going on in our schools. I totally disagree. I view the mayor as having a ceremonial and spiritual role in our community and being somebody who needs to be connected with those schools and the universities and make sure that whatever they can do, they inspire leadership there that connects people more with the city of Eugene. But I'll talk more about that on bullet point 3. If you are interested in following along, Hiura2020.org, you'll see 8-part policy plans on Pillar 1 education. Pillar 1 education, bullet 1, menstrual hygiene products in schools free of charge. I wanted to run on this as my number 1 policy because I'm unabashedly willing to fight for issues that people don't necessarily think of as being politically correct, I guess. On November 4th, 2019, I announced this as the first policy I would fight for. I believe that if the school board could not fund this basic necessity for students, the city would be able to make it happen in my first year in office. But luckily, 4J made this commitment less than 3 weeks after my announcement last November, and as mayor, I will fight for Bethel and private schools to do the same. People should not feel ashamed for menstruating in schools, and it should be covered just like toilet paper is covered. Bullet 2 on education. Pay teachers closer to what they deserve with federal and state advocacy. I know what it means for teachers to feel underappreciated. While it is more common in our popular culture to hear about this treatment coming from students, many of my friends who are still educators feel it more strongly from district officials and administrators. On a human level, these heroes deserve a decent wage. And at the basic market level, we cannot attract and retain the best talent to the profession if the brightest educators can make twice the money with a smaller workload as private tutors. While this is not a City of Eugene policy to fight for, I would fight for it in my mayoral role as an ethical and spiritual leader for our community. Bullet 3. Visit schools and report back weekly. As mayor of a town that revolves around education, I will make an unprecedented commitment to visit a school at least once every single week. I am a former educator, and this would be hardly work for me. I would relish the opportunity to be connected with what's going on in our schools, encouraging civic engagement from youth, and reporting back honestly in weekly mayoral blogs. People might not understand or recognize that some of the most successful mayors in Eugene's history have been very close with education. Kitty Piercy, who served the second longest of any mayor and was the second woman to ever be elected to the position, and has a huge name in Eugene because people know about things she's done, right? She was a kindergarten teacher for quite some time. Jim Torrey was the mayor before her, and he was very involved with the schools, has been a school board member in 2 different times in his life here in 4J, and he kind of famously read to all the kindergarten classes in school when he began being the mayor. Take a comment break. Marvolo, well, I don't know if I should shout out people's names. I'm going to shout out people's names. She says, yes, I can't tell you how many awkward moments of not having menstrual supplies made me incapable of participating in physical education classes and often ended up going home early. So I'm glad that youth leaders, Period Eugene, for example, is an org that has fought for that. And I kind of just was ready to fight for it, and then all of a sudden, scrolling through Facebook and see people sharing news links that had already happened. So I was like, hell yeah on that. Ed Bullet 4, support the LCC bond. Our campaign will be on the same ballot as this crucial bond. I'm so proud that Eugenians have continually put our students first, voting for more funding when the state has been an inconsistent source of revenue. I urge you to vote for this bond, and I'll fight for and promote LCC opportunities within K-12 schools as mayor of Eugene. I believe strongly that we have kind of a messed up perception that youth get that LCC is not a good place to study. What? That's an absurd proposition. But it's something that it's not because of them, it's because of people's perceptions of community college writ large. And it's very classist on the national scale, our perception of trade schools and vocational programs and 2-year certificates and 1-year certificates and all sorts of things that are very specially linked to a vocation. I had a more broad liberal arts education, and ultimately I really appreciated that they taught me how to study hard and think hard and be critical. But people who did like shorter like flight attendant programs and dentist programs, they ended up being able to have more reliable income than people who like graduated with an American Studies degree, let's say. It's a wonderful opportunity we have in LCC, but we have to keep their facilities up to par and make sure that anybody attending there gets the benefit of the basic infrastructure that this bond supports. So please support that bond. Ed, point number 5, oppose stopwatch-based reading tests. I will work with education leaders to emphasize comprehension, critical thought, and creative literacy. When you measure a kid's reading by words per minute, you simultaneously suck the joy out of reading and encourage them to view language arts as a race. This is damaging and antithetical to the skills that elementary education should be equipping our youth with. I have a comment break. Snack Tech says, it's also the cult of worshiping higher education, quote unquote, as the only viable path to a solid education. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, my friend, that the K through 12 world and K through 16 world are being rocked by the changes in technology. They better keep up with it. They better be able to integrate those solutions better, because otherwise people are, it's just amazing how well educated many of my friends are who did not go to a bachelor's program. And some of my friends who have bachelor's degrees and remain so ignorant of some topics. Brooklyn Wetzel says, we're going to have some interesting conversations about education. Point number 6. Join the school board members calling for less homework. Less homework. Let's go. There's a growing coalition of 4J board members, Martina Shabram and Gordon Lafer, who have brought this tough truth forward. The benefits of the national trend of increased homework expectations have not kept up with the downside. As a teacher and student, I've always said school should be a place where learning is fun. Let's be clear, over-assigning homework puts the most vulnerable and at-risk students at a greater disadvantage. Teachers should be empowered with the resources to make more of the magic happen in the classroom. I would also add to that, these are little blurbs that I wrote for the policies for the website, that there are a lot of people who don't have access to a safe place to do homework. They don't have home conditions that are conducive to doing the kinds of studying that we are expecting people to do. So some people are big advocates of flipped classrooms, especially in things like math, where you get the lesson at home, like on Khan Academy or on some kind of video site, and then you go to school and you do the homework, the problem sets in the classroom. This is something that we have to remember can make an assumption that people have places to do homework outside of school. They should be able to get a lot more of their content within the school hours, and then just be people, be kids who have time to do other crap. Maybe like learning about being a human being and shit like that. And Brooklyn Wetzel is asking, am I open to radical change in education? And she says, no homework, later start times, less testing. I don't see any of those three things as being radical. I unfortunately, with so much privatization that's happening in ed and people using for-profit models that try to extract money from especially higher education, instead of, focusing on learning and focusing on positive, my point is that these things shouldn't be radical, but in a world where everything is seen as an industry that we can profit from, and I would say healthcare is something like this too, where healthcare is being overrun by thousands of infrastructural nightmare plans that prevent us from having a universal healthcare system. And I don't know that any of the things that Brooklyn Wetzel is proposing are radical. Snack Tack says flexibility and accommodation should be top priorities for education. See, I would say that a lot of people understandably recognize that Washington, D.C. cannot make the decisions for everybody about what they should be learning. That's just not sustainable or positive. I think that I'm going to have to move through these a little quicker because I only have half an hour left of the live stream. So, number 7, oppose costly and unnecessary bonuses for college and university presidents. As mayor, I would publicly oppose all bonuses for the presidents of higher education institutions until their tuition and fees are genuinely affordable. The school's job is to educate all people and promote social mobility, not to give six-figure bonuses to the highest paid leader in an Oregon public university. This is one of those points you see me being a little more responsive, reactive to shit that I haven't liked seeing in our community. As mayor, I would develop a relationship with President Chill, and that relationship is not going to be the same old namby-pamby, you're never going to get criticism from me relationship that I think he's gotten from the mayoral office, which exists in part because the current mayor is very invested in the kinds of, she wants to be able to point to economic achievements, and when you're close with the university and you don't seem to have a lot of critical dialogue for the kinds of investments that they make and the impact that it has on our neighborhoods and on our community, then, I mean, there's not going to be much accountability. Let me make a point about accountability right now, which is that our city government needs charter reform, and it needs an independent elected city auditor, because right now people are as far away from the decisions that are made as possible. The highest official that you can elect is the mayor. The mayor is in a weak mayor system, does not have the powers that the city manager has to run the city. They don't have the powers that the city council has to vote on policy. They set the agenda and they're a spiritual figurehead. Those are powerful things, but it's not like I, as mayor, could go to, wave my wand and make the university act in the interest that everybody wants. It's something that you would do through relationship building, and I'm unwilling. I'm very willing to be disliked. That's something I've been used to in my life. I have a personality that puts some people off, and that is okay. I still try to be a nice person, and I don't have to be best friends with the president of the university. I will be best friends with the people writ large. The last education policy point, educational opportunities for inmates. No matter your perspective on public safety, there are meaningful arguments for why having a more literate inmate population is good for us all. From the perspective of rehabilitation, programs like the Barred Prison Initiative have been shown to reduce violent behavior. There's bipartisan legislation from our Congressman and Representative David Trone to reallow Pell Grants in prisons. Our most progressive community members do not tend to agree with Betsy DeVos on much, but we can agree on this. In Eugene, we can disseminate knowledge to inmates and ensure opportunities for growth. I had a professor in college named Deborah Appelman who wrote a book called Words No Bars Can Hold. I highly recommend checking it out because she has done a lot of education inside of prisons and jails, and it's so important. It also actually, who is surprised by this, right? But it reduces violent crime in the prisons. And just because it's happening in prisons doesn't mean that we shouldn't be concerned about violent crime happening to human beings. The second pillar issue, mental health. Policy point number 1, bring this issue out of the shadows. It's not a very wonky policy, but it's a policy nonetheless. Promoting a more empathetic and scientific dialogue about mental health is something the mayor can do on their own. We have to affirm that there's no shame in having neurodivergence in one's family. I happen to live with PTSD and generalized anxiety, and people tell me bipolar disorder as well, but I don't know. I love my brain, and having medically accurate knowledge of these conditions has allowed me to be as productive and happy as anyone else. If you can't think of another issue more obviously where the mayor can be a public voice to try to reduce stigma, this should be the issue you think about. Snack Tack says being disliked by the right people can be a great thing. I agree. This is a policy point number 2 that might get me disliked by some people, but I still think it's worth mentioning. Reduce drug use among young teens. This is a public health issue for many in our community, and denying that fact will not get us anywhere. Cannabis, alcohol, illicit drugs, and yes, nicotine and caffeine can all be abused. For 12 and 13-year-olds, the centers of the brain associated with pleasure develop faster than those associated with risk analysis and decision making. We need to empower youth leaders to do relevant, evidence-based advocacy if we want to change the culture. This reminds me of a different problem that I helped address in high school called the Words Can Hurt campaign that we used to address bullying and hate speech. And the reason I mention it is because, no, I don't think that the average mayor is going to come in and everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to what that person says and I'm going to stop smoking pot. That's delusional. What I want to do is empower people within those communities who have been affected in ways that sometimes don't get the right kind of attention by addiction, by related substance and mental health problems. And we certainly need to statewide increase the resources for recovery services, but we also locally can just empower people to do campaigns of public awareness. Mental health number 3. Work with state and federal officials to bring us from 50th best to the top 20 by 2030 on this issue. Oregon's ranked 50th in the country for how well our mental health resources meet the need for them. This is an accurate statistic as it is responsive to 15 different measures of success. That accuracy is exactly why we'll be able to change it quickly if we make the urgent changes we must make. Eugene has a great community of mental health professionals who are working even harder after COVID-19. But we have to fund programs, boosting resources and humane accountability within drug courts and mental health courts. Our whole county and city can show leadership in our state on this, and we must. I can be a little bit vulnerable, and I've said plenty of things about my family in this race before, but I haven't mentioned that, like, right now, my father is in the hospital for treatment of mental health crisis that has occurred recently. I really hope to be able to report good news to him on Wednesday, because this has been such a race that has consumed a lot of time, energy, passion, for my budget, a lot of money, even though it's just like less than $1,000. And yeah, I don't need to get into it too much, but I just want to say this is powerfully relevant to my life, and so you will see that as mayor, I have no interest in dragging my feet on this. Mental health number 4, support veterans in greatest need, navigating the bureaucracy around benefits. It has been too long since our community was recognized for positive steps on supporting veterans. In conversation with State Representative Marty Wilde, who himself is a veteran, I learned of a bill to bridge the famously arduous gap in federal benefits for our heroes, and particularly those struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder and related mental health challenges. The goal is to provide guardianship that helps vets do their paperwork and access more of the $10,000 per year dollars that the federal government allots to them. The state should better fund the OPG program, and I would work to make sure it's well implemented on the ground in Eugene. Pretty self-explanatory. People have put their lives on the line serving the United States military, and then they are treated poorly by a system that doesn't recognize what happened to them is incredibly traumatic. And even then, a whole host of other health issues can lead to making it difficult to fill out VA benefits forms. They're difficult forms to fill out. So Marty Wilde said to me that this is an issue where we don't provide funding here locally, but we have a real strong need to connect people with the funding that exists. Comment break. It's Colin81 says upward point and a thumbs up. Wow, that's awesome. At first I thought the upward point was a middle finger, but that's okay. It's not. And it's okay to middle finger me. I won't delete your comment. So, number 5 for mental health, lend a listening ear to school therapists and mental health professionals. Working in the education world for years in different parts of the country showed me some of the trends that unfortunately remain all too common. One of those is that school therapists and guidance counselors are not listened to enough or included in discussions about the vision or direction of the school. Some like to keep a low profile, but they still have very valuable insights if we make a point to listen to them. I will find ways to do that consistently as mayor. Again, something that's not going to cost money. It's just going to be something that's going to be a priority for me, is to actually get to know those people and get them what they need. Mental health number 6. I love this one. Throw a multi-genre concert for mental wellness. In 2019, a study showed that 73% of independent musicians experience mental illness. There is some great literature on the links between creativity and different neurotypes. One of the most invigorating ways we can change the narrative around this correlation is by celebrating difference together. Live music from artists across genres, poetry, stand-up comedy, and a sense of togetherness will define our concert for mental wellness. This is a powerful issue, and it's powerfully inconvenient that my stream may have just died. But I'm hoping that it's still streaming, and I should continue on just like the podcast should continue on. Mental health number 7, embrace the role that nature plays. The intersection of mental wellness and exposure to nature is getting increasing attention in the field. This is not a frivolous point, but a worthwhile examination of that which brings Eugene together, our love of nature. I personally have a Christian faith, so I view our abundant natural beauty as a divine gift. But all people can recognize how beautiful Eugene is around the buttes, wetlands, and riverfronts. By taking mental wellness from a scary place and recognizing it in a space that gives everyone comfort, I can advocate for positive change as mayor. I believe in that strongly. And I am going to take like a 30-second break to try to get this stream going still. So I feel like when I listen to podcasts, I don't like when there's dead air. So I'm just naming that there's some dead air. Maybe take it as a tiny little meditative thing. I don't know. I could also text my friend and say, is the stream still working? Cool. This is going to have to be the only less stupid episode that is edited, I think. I just can't do this all. Oh, it says it's still working. Okay, well, I can't respond to comments anymore, but I will just continue to roll and let the people know that I have 6 more policy plans to talk about after I finish up the 8th policy plan for mental health. And I say thank you, Marvelo, with a little heart react. Mental health 8. Eugene is almost a sanctuary city. Let's live up to what we say. There are many goals listed as accomplishments by the current leadership, whether they have taken place yet or not. One of these is formally labeling Eugene a sanctuary city, which did not happen. The county sheriff's office and immigrant rights activists were in disagreement about ICE in February 2019, and my take on this is that hollow rhetorical support for any group of Eugenians is not permissible anymore. For many in our town, undocumented or not, stress around ICE operations is a legitimate mental health issue. And I put that in there because I want people to expand their ideas about what constitutes mental health. And I think it's absolutely worth mentioning that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which has not been around very long, only like less than 2 decades, people, I hope, can recognize all the accountability issues and the moral issues that lead me to think we should abolish ICE. And people might agree with that, and they might not. That's what I believe. And I especially believe that the mayor could have taken a stronger stance. Instead of just saying that I'm not supporting the ICE agents by, we're not giving them Eugene Police support and Lane County Sheriff support. That's not enough. We have to actively oppose it. Pillar 3, business. So we should regulate Wall Street speculators more than Willamette Street marketeers. When I go down the streets of Eugene, I see a lot of wonderful eccentric businesses. I'm thinking of my friend Lazar Makidas, who has run for mayor before, who owns Lazar's Bazaar, and a whole bunch of excellent businesses that were already having a much more difficult time than they should before COVID struck. And So that's just a simple statement where I say that I believe in regulating people who take financial risks with our money and our stocks, and we should regulate less the small businesses that are trying to get by. Business number 2, work with grassroots advocates of all stripes, including Eugene Wake Up. It takes courage to speak out when you're in the minority. While I do not support every post and message from the advocacy group Eugene Wake Up, I admire their commitment to a safe community for all. Too many business leaders have experienced destruction of property, intimidation, and vandalism. In working toward solutions, I would want to involve members of EWU who have made it clear that lawless and destructive behavior are far from limited for the unhoused community. It's true. They have made efforts before to recognize that we are not targeting any particular group of people based on their housing status, and when they have failed to make that distinction clear, I have criticized it, but it's something that we should hopefully be able to get to a point where we recognize that biases and hateful rhetoric exist on both sides of this issue, and we can come together and focus on ways to get rid of that unfortunate reality of our cultural climate. I'll talk more about cultural climate in the cultural climate pillar. Just to give a roadmap, we are a few into business, and we're still going to do housing, climate, art, history, and climate again. We're going to do it in less than 18 minutes, so I'm just going to speed this up. I can no longer see the comments, but I am appreciative that people are listening. Business number 3, Economic Emergency Fund for Small Business Loans. Advocacy before and after COVID-19. I've been calling for this since November because it's almost weird for me to talk about this now, so I'll just say that it didn't take brain science or rocket science to know that the economic conditions under this big boom and bust situation that Trump brought us are not incredibly sustainable, right? So we need to be able to bail out people who are here in Eugene operating small businesses when needed. And of course get that money back eventually. So, business number 4, Workforce Development Program for Local College Graduates. Ties back into my LCC support before, where I strongly believe that we should be able to bring in people who are from around here to be able to be a part of the business community here, or who have graduated from our schools here and then want to actually stay in Eugene. I don't want Eugene to just be this little fun destination where you come and experience hippie culture and then go back somewhere else and bring the skills that you have developed elsewhere. Number 5 for business. Denounce Jeff Bezos every month at council meetings promoting Eugene businesses over Amazon. What more to be said? I wouldn't say it at every meeting, but I would probably close the meetings, and I learned this from some of my great teachers, every month, maybe the last meeting of every month, by talking about a great Eugene business you can buy from that isn't Amazon, and I would denounce Jeff Bezos, because people just do not need to, that guy, he needs some greater accountability, and it's hard to hold people accountable for the way that your workers are treated when you are the richest person in the entire world. Number 6, business. Protect rights for gig workers and STR operators. A lot of my friends are in the gig economy, and they should be able to thrive and survive, even though it's not the same kind of employment that other people experience. And also for STRs, that's short-term rentals, which is a kind of supplemental income that people use. I have listened to a lot of Eugenians who've spoken on both sides of that issue in Harris Hall to advocate for better policy making. So one of the problems right now is that a regulation that was put into proposition was that they would be able to rent out an Airbnb room 90 days out of the year. Now, that is such an overreach, in my opinion, that prevents people from not only hosting other people in a hospitable way that is more residential and more like, you might say, an authentic Eugenian experience, being in a neighborhood, but it also prevents them from gathering the income they might need to keep that property up. And we need to think about our housing stock in Eugene as being something more robust. So I believe in protecting those people from overreach. Business 7, prevent discrimination against black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. Here in Oregon, we must acknowledge that our Constitution has deeply racist and anti-black origins. We have to cultivate an environment that's welcoming for all. We cannot do that while black Eugenians and people of color experience discrimination. Entrepreneurs of color seeking business loans have experienced this throughout our community. I am proud to have a platform that recognizes the business community here in Eugene. A lot of candidates in the race don't have something that seems to speak to that interest. But in doing that, I want to make sure that you know that my values are in looking out for the little guy anywhere possible. So, or people who have faced unfair treatment. And we can't just persist believing that that the status quo is okay with how people can still experience the fallout of antebellum slavery. not that happened in Oregon, but sundown town history. And yeah, this is something where I believe it's a tangible and important way that we can prosper so many communities who have been impacted in Eugene. I basically just go through Eugene and I wish that we had a more vibrant, cosmopolitan, multicultural community in all stripes, creatively and in the business sector as well. So just making sure that those communities, and I'm pretty well connected with racial justice groups like NAACP, Eugene, Springfield, that they know that I recognize the uniqueness of issues that are experienced by these communities. So, 8-part policy plan. Number 3 is almost done. Business number 8. Create stronger linkages with the food, beverage, and performing arts communities. These vital businesses have had little reason to celebrate City of Eugene policymaking in recent years. I don't need to say much more about that. Those are my people. I think that if I make it to the runoff, a lot of those people in those communities will recognize that I am with them. I'm a part of them. My mom has been a server for my whole life in food service. I grew up in restaurants. I've worked at Sheba Hut. I've worked, all sorts of jobs that are about love, which food is love, man. Number 4 on my pillars. Got to speed it up even more. Pillar number 4, housing and homelessness. Number 1, call it like it is. Declare a state of emergency on homelessness. Zoning is one of the most consistently controversial and divisive City of Eugene issues, and I recognize that. But everybody wants solutions for the affordable cost of housing and for making sure that people have a safe place to sleep at night. Everybody wants solutions, but if we could declare a state of emergency, it allows for us to handle that situation with more urgency. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about bringing urgency to the solutions that our city needs. Number 2, speed up housing efforts that are affordable, including ADUs. ADUs are accessory dwelling units, and I believe that if you have property, that you should be able to house other people in a Conestoga hut or a little dwelling unit in your backyard. And right now there are too many regulations in place to prevent people from doing that. And frankly, the direct result of that is that more people are out on the street. Number 3, housing and homelessness. Increase efficacy of CAHOOTS, which stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. This program is the envy of cities nationwide, and it's for good reason. They respond to a lot of the calls on the emergency radio that the Eugene Police have, but they have a disproportionately small amount of the public safety budget. That budget was expanded with the payroll tax, but I didn't feel that CAHOOTS got enough of that, and I honor everybody who's trying to keep us safe in the community, and I believe in this program very, very strongly. Housing number 4. Amend Land Use Code R1 to double housing units allowed. If you look through the wonky policies that constitute our Land Use Code, there are a whole lot of somewhat arbitrary, well, not too many, but I identified several unfortunate, regulations that go, I think, they make it so that when we're trying to address these issues, we do not have um, like numbers that match the scale of the problem. And this is one of them too. Land Use Code R1 would basically allow religious facilities to have more housing units if they want to um, do this important work that they believe they're called to by divine power. So the city's getting in the way of that, and we need to be able to speed up these solutions. Number 5 on housing, increase multifamily residential zoning by 15% by 2030. I've had people email me and say that they have very strong feelings about not having more multifamily residential zoning, and I believe and I have to basically say to those people, hey, I appreciate that you reached out. We don't agree on this issue. I believe in density. People in Eugene talk about they don't like density and they don't like sprawl. Well, we need to be able to have more people living closer together. It's more environmentally efficient, and it certainly, I think, creates a better sense of community and people having more direct contact with their neighbors, which is a good thing. We've gotten away from that in society a little bit, and I actually think too that if there's a domestic violence situation, there's a better chance of intervention happening if you have more people living in a close environment. So number 6, housing and homelessness. Recognize that rent control is not a silver bullet solution. So Oregon is a landmark state for passing statewide rent control, and I would really recommend that people listen to the Freakonomics podcast episode about rent control, because it certainly, I think in situations like in New York City, I strongly believe that rent control is applicable to a lot of the issues there where gentrification is ravaging communities that have a distinct character, that are occupied by marginalized groups that have been, like Harlem, I lived right by. I didn't live there because that would be a gentrifier. No, I had a scholarship that was sponsoring me to live near there, but I certainly got in touch with some of the issues surrounding how rent control is valuable and positive for some people, but it can also sort of freeze community in a space and time that doesn't allow property improvements, etc. So it's not a silver bullet solution. Housing and homelessness number 7, reinvigorate federal attention and resources for Eugene. This is something I will give credit to previous Mayor Kitty Piercy for doing. She, especially with housing homeless vets, was able to work with people who are across the aisle, proverbially, and even got national attention from like Michelle Obama for being able to get the kinds of resources that Eugene needs from the federal government. So that's something I would advocate for. Housing number 8, advocate at state and federal level for low-cost marriage and family counseling. A reality of some situations is that if you don't have strong family counseling, and you don't have people being able to work out and evolve beyond situations of, let's say, domestic unrest of any kind, which was my childhood, by the way, then you can't keep people living together with the density that I advocate for and have stronger outcomes for people. So we need to be able to have that as a resource, and that's part of housing and part of having a healthy community of people who live in Eugene. We're halfway there, fellas, slash people, and I literally don't know how much more time I have, but I'm going to keep going through this quickly because, I got to go through this much more quickly. Pillar 5, end street harassment. Women and kids and students and the elderly deserve to feel safe throughout Eugene. Bike path lighting is just one piece of this. Number 2, big money out of politics. The best things governments have accomplished have been in spite of the influence of big money, not because of it. My self-funded primary campaign is ready to evolve into a competitive general election campaign. As we do so, I promise to position myself to be a mayor without hypocrisy on this issue. Number 3, term limits within the city of Eugene. Who's going to oppose that? We can have institutional memory and engage people who have been a part of the city government for many decades without making it so that other people don't have a chance to sit in those roles. Number 4, conservative dignity initiative. I grew up as a progressive liberal in Eugene. I've been increasingly frustrated with the climate of decreasing bipartisanship. I'm sick of seeing right-leaning and fiscally conservative friends demonized for airing real concerns, and 2016 only made this worse. Number 5, defend scientific knowledge. There's an alternative word for science, and that word is facts. Our politics should recognize evidence and data found through the scientific method. It's not that hard to do. Number 6, support all ages music venues. I have an admiration for people who host live music wherever it is happening, but I especially believe Eugene's youth are at their best when all ages music opportunities are available. Number 7, star voting. Gosh, hit me up about this, because I could go on about this. We could talk on the phone or something. We definitively need this Oregon-grown and innovative form of voting. It will save us money by ditching the low turnout, ergo less democratic May primary, and give us candidates we will all be happier with. It's score then automatic runoff. You could literally give people 5 stars, 0 stars, or anywhere in between, and it makes it so that you can vote your conscience, and then automatically they'll run off between people who end up passing the first round of viability. And your vote will still go to the person you preferred more out of whoever gets on the next round. I know I have to speed up, but this is going to save us so much money because we can actually skip the low turnout primary and, cut the amount of money that we spend on our elections in half. Number 8, keep potentially controversial items off the consent calendar. Right now, it's a way to sneak in agenda items without sufficient time for the public to consider and critique them. Number 6, art. I was going to freestyle this. You know what? Forget it. I'm going to do it. I was thinking I shouldn't do it, but let me just put on a beat, and I will just literally the first beat I could find on Blunted Beats. Yeah. Yeah. Shit. Number 1, continue podcasting weekly with artists and creative leaders. That's something I believe in, because I'm a leader. And I'm a real, true believer in other people in Eugene having a voice that's true. So I've been using this to give the voice to you. I've been trying to give it like a big spew. And you're like, this is too much content coming. And I'm like, yeah, I keep on going, drumming like the Energizer Bunny. We'll keep the podcast rolling. Number 2, value diversity. And that's showing at the Mayor's Art Show. Yes, we need it. I went there and I was feeling so defeated. Because when I was at her art show, damn, there's only like one freaking person of color. Damn, that don't even make sense to rhyme damn with damn, but I'm so angry and I'm just like Duran Duran, I'm hungry with the wolf, and I'm coming at you now to let you know that this one person was brown and they were in the far back corner of the room, and when I felt that, I was just like, that is such gloom and doom. You gotta have diversity in art shows, and I believe it, so I keep on going. Number 3, officially begin giving the City of Eugene Creative Giant Award. Hey, so once you're old and gray, you'll recognize the people in hip-hop are okay. They're able to make controversial statements and still have academic knowledge if you hate it. You can just go on and get creative and give this award to people who are showing and representing and doing it and flowing it. And every time that I get in, I'm telling these people that they got to be representing and have the fucking audacity to be creative and not feel judged, you see? Yeah, I said it. Number 4 is next. Explain all 64 policy goals, and that's a rest that I gotta take soon because it's in an album film that I'm making right now, and you know it's doomed, but I still am not doomed with the mask on. Keep it going, and I'm keeping raps on. Number 5, support all age music venues. I believe in that. It's even overlapping too because it's all these people that need to get about the street and show these motherfuckers that we got these beats. We can bring people together all about the streets and we can meet people moving in the scene and keep it going. It's not just for the bar scene. It's not just for 21 plus, you know what I mean? Yeah, number 6. Intergenerational group singing. Yeah, I can't go into the meat of the policy while freestyling. This is a regular event that would be an exciting forum to get together and engage in meaningful cultural dialogue. We'll be singing and teaching hits from throughout many generations of American music. This is literally one of the most exciting things, I think, for me, in terms of making a vision for Eugene that everybody can be a part of. Intergenerational group singing. It's happening, y'all. Number 7, invite instead of suppressing relevant performance art at the City Council. Meetings should be professional and efficient, sure, but there is absolutely no benefit to their being boring. The only function that serves is to limit the audience that cares about them, allowing the council to push policies through with less public debate. Number 8, uplifting beats in the streets. This is a city event that I'm thinking about with DJs, beat makers, drummers, dancers, seminars, freestyle, all sorts of dope shit. And I want it to be as intergenerational as possible, but I'm also hopefully not too delusional in thinking that this will be a fun event for youth. Pillar 7, history. Lift up the varied histories of this community is number 1. We need to respect elders and learn about timber, schools, athletes, Eugene Skinner, counterculture, and Kalapuya who built and sustain us. Number 2, work with 4J and Bethel to work towards localized history education. I have friends who I was on a study abroad program with who were from Massachusetts, and gosh, first of all, I hate Massachusetts. Second of all, I envy that they have so much history in their local K-12 curriculum that is about Massachusetts. And people think, oh, you East Coast just has so much more, so much richer history. Hell no. We have awesome history out here, and we recognize the voices I mentioned before. We're going to go a long way. Number 3 on history. Ensure fairness in redistricting following U.S. Census 2020 data. This is a point that is going to be impacting the future of where we're going, and we have to be able to, if we're going to establish more wards for the city council, if we're going to use this data to allocate what kinds of resources people get, there needs to be a hard look at it from the perspective of fairness and equity. Number 4, reduce or eliminate admission costs for history museums for youth and seniors. While most historical museums in the area are free for toddlers, others still charge admission for youth and seniors. I strongly believe that allowing people in these age groups to experience history, particularly Eugene and Lane County history, will yield dividends for our community. Many generations experience a crisis in belonging, and it is in our collective interest to allow them to engage with our past without being burdened by entry fees. Number 5, input more monuments with info into AR mobile games. Yes, Eugene still welcomes many to our thriving, disability-inclusive, multi-generational Pokemon Go community. I'm all about it. I play Pokemon Go often. You wouldn't believe how many great conversations I've had with Eugenians and Springfielders and visitors who enjoy particularly Willamette Street or Alton Baker Park, but other places that are great hubs to play. And if we actually input more historical info into the sites of interest in that game, it's a perfectly relevant way to educate people about history. Number 6, listen to your elders, a story sharing event. It's going to be an awesome event. I was really inspired growing up with some of the first podcasts that I ever liked to listen to were the Moth podcast. Public storytelling is so important, part of our oral tradition. It's part of bringing real community together. Number 7, subsidized ancestry DNA tests as a tangible, cost-effective form of community reparations. Gosh, I love that. I just love the concept of getting into a space that you wouldn't think of a municipal government doing, but that is so actually fundamental and integral to people's participation in Eugene, is knowing where they come from and knowing their own history. Number 8, bring back closed captioning of meetings to make them inclusive and a stronger archive. Absolutely, we have to do this. It's wrong that we lost this over the course of the last decade or so. If you go back to old city council meetings from like 2007, 2008, I believe, they're closed captioned because isn't it weird that that fell by the wayside? That we didn't recognize, for example, the deaf community. So, the final plan, 8.1, climate again. So this is our climate change plan, and I'm very proud of it, and we're going to keep running through it fast because I don't think we have much time left, but please reach out to me because I'm an ardent environmentalist, and I think that there are common sense solutions we can fight for. This is something that gets controversial at times, and I understand there are a lot of different people with a different perspective on the amount of urgency that we need to have, but that's just all the more reason why we need to have better dialogue, where we're not just thinking like, you're an evil hippie who wants to destroy businesses, and you're an evil person who employs people, and so you're exploiting the climate. Those are not necessarily true, even if there's truth in some certain situations. So we got to just recognize other perspectives more. I'm rambling. Number 1, build our first fast charger for electric vehicles. This could have been done so easily by now. Salem has about 8, but we have none. Eco-conscious visitors should not need 4 hours to fuel up at a level 2 charger. I know this because I drive a Nissan Leaf that I love. I call her Leafy Green, and it's actually an economic point too, because if you could get people to stay here and rapid charge their EV for 40 minutes, downtown in highly visible locations in places with businesses, they will check out those businesses. And we need to have visitors in Eugene be catered to, and give them reasons to love the convenience that living in Eugene offers. Number 2, fight for climate fairness and justice. For example, Ward 8 has the highest Hispanic population and the highest concentration of polluters. That's not choosing kindness. Ecological justice is important. Number 3, oppose new fossil fuel infrastructure that prevents keeping our word on 2030 goals. I feel disheartened and deflated every time I'm driving down Highway 99 and I get to Four Corners where I see that there's a new gas station being built just across from a mobile gas station that hardly looks like it's being used. We're not on track to meet the goals that are espoused in the Climate Action Plan right now. So why are we going in the wrong direction? And I recognize the many perspectives on this again, but we can change our transportation infrastructure in a way that really does help our great-grandkids. So I know that it's not something we think about. It tends to be abstract for some people, and they want to take care of their needs now, and they're a parent, and they need to get around, and if you talk about inhibiting gas infrastructure, people tend to give you some type of look, right? But there's so many other ways to get around, and just email me if you have more questions about that, because I'm a reasonable person. I just don't think we should have new infrastructure going up that's going to be problematic. Number 4, appoint relevant liaison positions through open applications. This is true for climate, but for a whole host of issues. I believe in having more positions that are not paid positions that are going to cost us money, but that allow us to reach out very intentionally into communities that don't have a voice on the issues that they want to have. So, let's have some climate liaisons out there who can bring better perspectives to our city. Number 5, transition in a cost-effective way towards EVs for City of Eugene vehicles. This is something where the city has to lead by example. We have a paradox now where we're supposed to be taking care of our people, but we are using way too many internal combustion engines when there is increasing technology for electric vehicles. But they are going in that direction already, and I would continue that transition. I want people to know that. Number 6, fight for the development of high-speed rail. Think about if you could get from Eugene to Portland in less than an hour on the rail. Eugene to Seattle in a couple hours. I was born in Japan, and in the 1970s they built the Shinkansen high-speed rail system that continues to cart people around at a rapid pace around there, and it's awesome, and we should be able to have it here. So they're out hustling our American infrastructure even in urban areas. West Coast cities like Eugene need to stand to gain a tremendous amount from a high-speed rail network. Number 7, work with local climate experts on the Climate Action Plan. Far too often, there's been discontent between experts on climate mitigation and the city of Eugene. Rather than having the constant push-pull and frustration that comes with competing with one another, I believe the city should embrace the scientists and build cohesive solutions. Number 8, enact incentives for solar microgrids, both residentially and commercially. I know I'm kind of a nerd and a dweeb, but PV energy, photovoltaic energy, is a really outstanding solution for a lot of people, so we should be able to make it easier for them to have that solution in their businesses that they own, and also right on their roofs in their houses. So that's my vision for Eugene. Yay! 64 policies, all spoken about, some rapped about, most of that being poorly. Thank you for everybody who has hung in there despite the technical delays that have made this stream more of a challenge, or just all of the noise and the difficulty with keeping up with this race in a freaking global pandemic. And I hope that this video is able to be saved, because I've never used this streaming software before. But if not, we've got the audio here. I apologize if the audio quality wasn't that good, but for the final thing I want to just talk about is moving the campaign forward. This could be a end cap on what was a really exciting learning experience for me running this campaign. I'm so grateful for so many people who have shown any kind of support throughout this endeavor. Or it could be an exciting transition into a refined campaign, and one where both candidates should be taken seriously and have recognition for what they can bring to the mayoral office. And if that is Lucy Vinnis and I, if that is Lucy Vinnis and a write-in, if that is Zondi Zinke and I, or Matthew Yuke, or any of the people running, everybody deserves to be taken a little bit more seriously. And so I am so excited for the ways that I would be able to do that in terms of, I want to invite you. I want to invite people to have a role on this campaign team. A lot of this previously has been a situation where I didn't want to drag people through something that all conventional wisdom said was a plan to fail. I don't see it as a failure if we don't prevail on the ballot because of all the things that we've brought up and the advocacy we've done for issues. But at the same time, I recognize that if I had brought other people onto the team, I had a lot of people wanting to be my campaign manager, which I'd rather have a campaign coordinator. And I've had to respectfully say that maybe we can work together in the general election, but I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about the kinds of experiences that people need to recognize can bring positive change to the city council and to the mayor's office. And people of color, queer people, young people, people with disabilities, people with mental health challenges, people who are very low income, people who have experienced houselessness, people of different religious identities. People should all have a chance, right? And so I have spent no money on this primary campaign, but effectively, and not enough where I would even have to report it. It's less than $1,000. But to win the general election, we're going to need to beef everything up and do all of the kinds of advocacy that is needed. I'm excited to knock on doors. If you want to be a part of it, please reach out. And I would say we are going to keep fighting for progress in Eugene. The people who have run their campaigns are going to continue to be advocates here. I would like to keep interviewing people on Less Stupid. We could have great conversations reflecting on the race. I would love if people who don't win, like we have contested races, I would love if people who don't win would be really willing to come on my show and chat about what they learned anyway. Because I know I've learned a lot from failure, quote unquote, more than I've learned from quote unquote success. So whatever happens, I am excited for Eugene to have the best leadership possible. And that just reminds me of that. I want to be friends with Lucy Vinnis. Like, Lucy Vinnis is a nice person, despite a lot of acts that I think are morally questionable and that deserve to be called out or called in, right? And if my only impact is that I demonstrated ways that we can be more connected to one another, hopefully this is an example, that I can inspire better leadership in that office, and I just am a passionate Eugenian who wants to see change happen faster than it's happening. Eugene should be ahead of the curve because culturally and socially and in terms of like love and appreciation for one another and what we can experience here in this beautiful community, we are ahead of the curve. But we have economic conditions that are not that are behind the curve. We are affected by most national tragedies with a delay in how we're affected and a prolonged status. This happened with the housing bubble in 2008, etc. So we are going to have a bright future, and I'm so excited for the role that I've had and that other people have played also. So let's keep shining a light on positive voices. Let's shut me the hell up and have a wonderful day. Please turn in your ballot by 8 p.m. May 19th. Have a good one.